This episode is provided by Thomas Allgeier and Frennis, based on the most relevant LinkedIn posts about go-to-market in calendar weeks 8 and 9. Frennis is a B2B market research company helping enterprises gain the customer, competitive, and positioning insights needed to drive GTM success.
And a huge welcome to all of you joining us. If you are a B2B marketing professional, whether you are architecting a massive enterprise revenue team or you are just the solo engine driving growth at a mid-market startup, you are in exactly the right place.
Yeah, absolutely. Today, we are bringing you a really highly focused deep dive into the absolute top go-to-market trends that have, basically dominated the professional conversation across LinkedIn over the past 2 weeks.
Right, calendar weeks 8 and 9.
Exactly. And the overarching mission of our deep dive today is to really explore this massive fundamental shift in how growth is actually generated. I mean, we are seeing the GTM conversation move entirely away from these isolated quick fix tactics.
Yeah, the era of just hacking together a few email sequences is totally over.
It really is. Instead, it is all about engineered compounding systems, systems that actually connect AI, infrastructure, and revenue architecture.
It's such a critical shift. We are moving from a world of just more tools and more noise to one of absolute precision and observability. So we've clustered the insights from these past 2 weeks into a cohesive journey for you.
Yep.
We are going to look at how strategy fundamentally dictates your tech stack, how AI is evolving into a very strict engineering discipline rather than just, a basic writing assistant.
Right.
And finally, the specific agentic workflows that GTM leaders are literally betting their careers on right now.
Let's start right at the bedrock, which is the strategy and the revenue architecture. Because there is one glaring takeaway from the past 2 weeks of insights is that your GTM strategy absolutely has to start with a foundation of clarity and market understanding.
Not just a rush to execute.
Exactly. Not just a rush to execute. If your foundation is cracked, running faster just won't save you. But here's the difficult part. How do you actually know when that foundation cracks? Because if my pipeline drops today, my instinct as a leader is to look at today's metrics. I want to look at the current SDR output or maybe this week's ad spend.
Which is exactly the trap. And Alon even pointed out something that really challenges that entire reactive mindset. He notes that when a GTM motion fails, the root cause is almost never what you're doing today.
Right.
The root cause is usually 12 months old.
Wow, 12 months.
Yeah, it almost always comes down to a fundamental lack of market understanding that was baked into the strategy a full year prior.
That makes so much sense.
So treating a pipeline issue by just blindly adding more sales development reps or, pumping more budget into a channel.
It's treating a fundamental system problem like it's just an execution problem.
Precisely. You can't optimize your way out of a broken system. You just end up failing faster and burning cash along the way. That 12-month lag is simply the time it takes for a bad strategic assumption to cycle through your sales process and actually show up as missed revenue.
That reframes the whole pipeline conversation.
Yeah.
And honestly, a lot of what we look at in our pipelines to justify our strategy is just completely detached from reality anyway.
Oh, totally.
Piyush Bamare asked a brutal but very necessary question to revenue leaders this week. He asked, if 30% of your pipeline vanished tomorrow, would your actual revenue change at all?
That is a terrifying question to ask a room full of sales leaders.
Right. I mean, a terrifying question. But his point is that a massive chunk of what sits in a CRM is just pipeline theater. It's curiosity disguised as intent.
Yeah.
He knows that real qualified deals must have 3 non-negotiable elements. They need economic consequence, internal risk, and a forcing event. If a prospect doesn't lose money by doing nothing, if nobody's job is on the line, and if there isn't a hard deadline forcing a decision, you don't actually have a deal. You're just padding your dashboards to make the quarter look a little less intimidating.
And if we connect this pipeline theater to the bigger picture, it explains why we have so much dysfunction in how these GTM systems are managed internally. It really raises an important question about ownership. Who is actually responsible for ensuring the system doesn't just fill up with junk?
It's a great question.
Mike Rizzo tackles this brilliantly. He argues that a GTM stack shouldn't be viewed as a loose collection of software subscriptions. It is actually a product that needs a dedicated, highly technical owner.
But in most organizations, no one really owns it end to end, do they?
Yeah.
I mean, the CMO owns the brand tools, the CRO owns the CRM, maybe the CTO touches the data warehouse.
Exactly. They own their little fragmented silos. And because nobody owns the holistic system, nobody is responsible when the data breaks down between marketing and sales. This is exactly why Rizzo argues that marketing ops or RevOps needs a clear mandate to step up and run the GTM infrastructure like a true software product.
Yes.
It needs its own roadmap, its own lifecycle management, and it needs to treat the internal revenue team as its actual user base.
And when you have that dedicated ownership, you can actually build a system focused on sustainable growth, rather than just frantically hunting for new logos to replace the ones churning out.
Definitely.
Sangram Vajra broke down the brutal math of net revenue retention, or NRR, to illustrate this perfectly. He pointed out that if you are sitting at 90% NRR, you are essentially trying to fill a leaky bucket. You have to go out and win 40% in completely new business just to achieve a modest 30% growth rate.
Which is just exhausting for any team.
Yeah, it is exhausting. But if you have an engineered system that gets you to 120% NRR, your existing customers are doing the heavy lifting for you. Expansion becomes the actual growth engine.
Which brings up the obvious next question. How do you actually execute that kind of retention practically? It sounds great in theory, but it requires serious discipline. Kun Stam proved this out in the real world.
Oh, I love this post.
Right. He shared how he scaled a sauce company from $2 million to $10 million. And he did it by doing something that would probably make most traditional sales teams riot.
What did he do?
He narrowed their ideal customer profile incredibly specifically. We are talking down to specific tech stack attributes and internal desk ratios. And then he gave his customer success team veto power over new pipeline.
Wait, he gave customer success the power to kill an active deal before it closed. I can only imagine the internal friction that must have caused at first.
Oh, it goes against every instinct a sales rep has. But the logic is bulletproof. If the CS team looked at a prospect and knew they couldn't make them incredibly successful, they vetoed the deal. They refused to close bad revenue.
Wow.
And as a result of that extreme discipline, their win rates hit 34% and their customer acquisition costs dropped significantly. They won by focusing purely on flawless execution for the right buyers, not reckless expansion at any cost.
That is such a powerful pivot, but you can't have that level of flawless execution if your underlying infrastructure is fighting against you. Which naturally brings us to the second theme today, the technology itself.
Yes, the stacks and infrastructure.
Right now, we are seeing a massive evolution in tech stacks. GTM leaders are aggressively transitioning away from clunky, passive systems of record and moving toward dynamic systems of action.
But that transition is incredibly messy right now. People are enthusiastically buying all the right modern tools, but they are deploying them in completely the wrong order.
Yeah.
Jan Rasmussen audited over 300 GTM stacks recently and shared some really sobering realities. For instance, he found companies literally wasting $180,000 a year on advanced intent tools like 6sense.
But isn't the whole point of a tool like 6sense to help fix your targeting? Why is that a waste?
It's a waste if your basic foundation is broken. They were layering this expensive predictive intent data on top of a CRM that was completely unmaintained and full of dirty data. The signals had nowhere to land.
Oh, that hurts to hear.
Furthermore, he saw teams hoarding 52 different GTM tools, paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in licensing, but their teams were only actually logging into and using 7 of them on a daily basis.
The software hoarding is so real. I think we all know the pain of trying to manage, let alone integrate, 50 different dashboards. Emir Atli saw the exact same symptom. He talked about meeting a Fortune 100 VP who was spending $950,000 a year on this massive, bloated tech stack.
Almost $1 million.
Almost $1 million. But when Emir asked a very simple question, he asked, can you point to these tools and explain exactly how they helped you win your last major deal? The VP couldn't do it. They had all the enterprise software money could buy, but they couldn't actually trace how their own revenue was being created.
Which has to be a terrifying realization for a revenue leader. You're flying completely blind while spending $1 million a year. The fix, as we are seeing across the smartest practitioners in the community, is radical simplification.
Yes.
Rishi Savla notes that the most forward-thinking GTM leaders are actively cutting their stacks in half. They are stripping everything down to 4 essential, highly interoperable layers.
Okay, what are the 4 layers?
Yeah.
We were throwing out the bloated software. What actually stays?
You need a system of record, which is your core CRM truth. You need a system of context, which is where your messaging, logic, and prompts live. You need a system of orchestration to actually route the data between platforms. And finally, a system of activation for your actual outbound and inbound outreach.
That makes sense.
If a tool doesn't cleanly and clearly fit into one of those 4 layers, it gets cut.
That makes the data flow so much easier to visualize. And Jack Mercer adds a great perspective on how that data should actually move through those 4 layers. He says it is all about connecting the loop.
Right.
A modern architecture has to flow from a signal, like a prospect hiring a new CMO, to enrichment, where you find their contact info and current tech stack. From there, it flows to relevance, which is tailoring the message, then momentum to keep the deal moving, and finally to feedback, so the system learns if it actually worked.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter if you have the most expensive AI in the world. If those layers don't connect seamlessly, the tools simply do not matter.
And just to put some hard benchmark numbers to this reality for our listeners, Chirag Kulkarni scanned the actual tech stacks of over 3,400 fast-growing B2B companies. The data is wild. Despite this push for simplification, the average company is still running nearly 32 tools.
32 tools. The sheer amount of API maintenance alone is giving me a headache just thinking about it.
It is unsustainable. Interestingly, Chirag also noted a massive shift happening at that foundational system of record layer. HubSpot is rapidly pulling away from Salesforce in the mid-market.
Really?
Yeah, we're looking at 52% adoption for HubSpot compared to Salesforce's 21% in that specific segment. The market's desire for a more unified, all-in-one system is clearly driving massive shifts in buying behavior.
That desire for a unified system is exactly what is pushing us into the next scheme today, which is AI and engineered GTM. We all know AI has moved way past basic copy generation or writing LinkedIn posts. But the shift we saw in the GTM community this week is that AI is now being treated strictly as an engineering discipline.
This is a crucial distinction. Jasper Van Uytrecht argues that what we were doing last year, that basic 2023-style prompt engineering, is completely dead.
Thank goodness.
Think about it. As a GTM leader, you shouldn't have to sit down and re-explain your ideal customer profile, your brand tone, and your product features to an AI every single Monday morning just to write a campaign.
No, it's a huge waste of time.
The new critical skill for B2B marketers is context engineering. It's about building underlying systems that actually remember your business logic, learn from the data they process, and compound their intelligence over time.
But context engineering comes with a whole new set of risks, right? Lawrence Nyes warns against something he calls context rot.
Context rot, yes.
If you get lazy and just force-feed an AI agent a massive, unstructured, 20-page standard operating procedure, the AI gets overwhelmed. It loses the thread and starts hallucinating completely irrelevant information.
Exactly. You can't just dump a PDF into an AI and expect magic. Lawrence says the solution is what he calls progressive disclosure. You have to build atomic files and routing maps of your content.
Let's define that for a second. Think of an atomic file like a single, unchangeable Lego brick of your company's messaging. Maybe one specific file just for your pricing logic, and another just for a specific competitor battle card. Instead of handing the AI the whole instruction manual at once, the routing map ensures the AI only pulls the exact Lego brick it needs for the specific problem it's solving at that exact moment.
That is a perfect analogy. And what's fascinating here is how this architecture changes team dynamics. Nico Druell calls this the necessary move from single-player AI to multiplayer AI.
Multiplayer AI, I like that.
Right now, a lot of teams operate with individual reps prompting their own individual ChatGPT windows in complete silos. But your GTM team needs version-controlled logic, just like a software engineering team.
Exactly.
If your growth team updates the definitions in your lead scoring model, your SDR's AI assistant should automatically pull that new definition from a shared repository. The entire revenue team has to run on the exact same institutional memory.
That level of alignment is the absolute dream. But we also need to keep our feet on the ground regarding what AI should actually be doing. Sergey Grizzly shared a very important warning this week. He said AI should be your back-end infrastructure.
Yeah.
It should never be your voice.
Yes.
He built a system that uses AI to remove friction and automate all the back-end account research across his stack. That pure infrastructure play led to a massive 57% lift in inbound. But he stresses that when it comes to the actual conversation with a buyer, human outreach is still essential. The AI sets the stage perfectly, but humans still have to close the trust.
Trust is the operative word. And moving too fast with automation can destroy it instantly. Richard Thornton reminds us of the golden rule of GTM operations. Before you automate anything, you must understand your sales process deeply.
Yeah.
If you don't understand the nuances of why your buyers buy, AI is just going to execute your flawed, broken assumptions at a terrifying scale.
Oh, speaking of terrifying scale, did you see Alexander Schwartz's post this week? He actually made a brilliant satirical joke about this exact trend. I saw the headline and almost choked on my coffee.
The one about Rajiv the bot?
Yes, the Rajiv post. He posted this whole exaggerated story bragging about using Claude to build an entire GTM stack from scratch in 33 minutes, claiming it instantly booked 243 meetings through an automated bot named Rajiv. Tell me people didn't actually believe Rajiv was real and booking those meetings.
Some people definitely missed the joke at first, but it served as a perfect biting warning to the industry. It perfectly captured the absurdity of the current hype cycle. It highlights the absolute danger of generating automated noise instead of actual meaningful revenue. You don't want a Rajiv. You want a system.
Poor Rajiv had a very busy week. So, practically speaking, and moving to our last thing here, community benchmarks and the agentic future.
Yeah.
If we are moving past the hype and focusing on engineering real systems, what are the actual tools and platforms that B2B marketing practitioners are converging around right now?
Well, according to a recent, highly detailed survey conducted by Michelle Lieben, who specifically asked GTM leaders running organizations with over $1 million in revenue about their tech stacks, there is an undisputed king right now.
And what is it?
A platform called Clay is showing up in a staggering 71% of these GTM tech stacks. It has essentially become the foundational data and orchestration layer for modern outbound.
Play really is everywhere right now. But there's a new player shaking up how these workflows are built, and that's Claude Code. I've seen some debate about this. Is Claude Code going to replace these orchestration platforms?
Right, the replacement fear.
Olie Casapana made a really insightful point about this dynamic. She points out that Claude Code isn't replacing Clay at all. It is actually accelerating it.
How so?
Well, Clay is still the absolute best at handling the complex data enrichment. It runs what they call waterfalls, which is basically cascading data logic. If it can't find a prospect's valid email using provider A, the waterfall logic automatically cascades down to check provider B, then provider C, ensuring you get the highest quality signal.
Makes sense.
Claude Code, on the other hand, handles all the repetitive connective tissue around it. You can write the scripts to export the data, format the CSVs, and build the custom API connections between your various tools. It acts as the ultimate technical operations assistant to make the data flow.
If we connect this rise of autonomous code generation to the bigger picture, it highlights a massive new gap in the market. Danny Chapenko argues that because AI agents like Claude Code are now running so much of the actual execution, platforms like Clay need to evolve. He says they need to become an agent observability layer.
Observability layer, like a flight data recorder for your CRM.
Exactly like that. When you have autonomous AI agents doing tasks, finding signals, and updating your CRM records at 2 in the morning while you sleep, you desperately need a place to monitor and trace exactly what logic those agents used and why they changed a piece of data.
That's a great point.
If an agent disqualifies an account, you need to be able to audit why. Trusting an autonomous system requires complete visibility into that system.
That visibility is going to be the difference between a system that scales and a system that completely crashes your database. And when this all clicks together, when the observability and the context engineering align, the results are just mind-blowing. Antoine Menager shared what has to be the ultimate success story of this new architecture in action.
The 1.5 million euro pipeline story.
Yes, he built a fully automated pipeline for a company that generated 1.5 million euros with absolutely zero manual prospecting. None.
Unbelievable.
The system automatically detects specific signals on LinkedIn. It routes that signal to Clay where it enriches the prospect's data. It handles the initial highly contextual messaging. It books the qualified call. And then, this is the best part, it literally sends him an AI-generated briefing document with all the context right before he jumps on the Zoom meeting.
That really is the benchmark for what is possible today. He engineered a system that does all the heavy lifting so the human only steps in when trust needs to be established.
Exactly.
And that is exactly where the future of the profession is heading. Kyle Poyar recently asked 195 B2B GTM leaders what their biggest bets were for the year 2026. The top 2 answers across the board were AI discovery, meaning optimizing for how AI search engines and agents perceive your brand, and intent-based outbound.
No more spray and pray.
The days of spraying and praying generic messages to a purchase list are definitively over. It is all about acting on precise signals with engineered, automated workflows.
So as we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to turn this directly over to you, our listener. We've talked a lot today about progressive disclosure, observability layers, and interconnected infrastructure. Inspired by a brilliantly tough question from Alan C. in our source material, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
If you doubled your outbound volume tomorrow, which layer of your tech stack would completely collapse? Are you just optimizing your copywriting inside isolated silos, or have you actually built a truly connected, resilient GTM infrastructure?
If you enjoyed this episode, new episodes drop every 2 weeks. Also, check out our other editions on account-based marketing, field marketing, channel marketing, MarTech, social selling, and AI in B2B marketing.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the absolute cutting edge of go-to-market strategy. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an insight. Keep engineering those compounding systems, and we will catch you next time.